We are live. We are live. Hilarious in the chat. Here we are. Welcome. We're live. So tonight we're doing this stream for a little bit, and then at 8 I'll do my spaces. And I might make this one shorter and have a bit of time to go do some chores that I should have done after dinner, but we had a late dinner and and I had a lot of chores to do on the homestead today, let me tell you, and I was a sweaty mess. So I might just do this one short, and then I'll have time in between the Twitter space, and I can just go and do some chores and not be in trouble. Let me put it to you that way. So yeah, how you guys doing? Here we are. Here we are. And tonight, yeah, I'm just gonna riff on a bunch of stuff. It's kind of fun using Twitter as a sounding board to kind of just throw things out there that I'm thinking of and then come and riff on them in the YouTube live stream. So how's everybody doing? Where are you coming from? Good evening. Smash the like, get more people in the chat if you want to support me and get more people in here. Oh, what's this? Close that. Okay. All right. Got a bunch of windows open here that I didn't need to. Winter is here. Winter is here. Today I had a bunch of winter chores to do. I put some of those in the video, but what I didn't show you in that video, so I showed you my firewood, which I had to reload two of those containers that I bring into the house and the garage. And I did some splitting just for the hell of it, some split down some more larch and feed the chickens, do all those chores, you know, fill up their water, make kind of clean the coop. I should didn't do that today. I should do that. But I was pumping water all day. And so our cabin that we live in, you've seen the videos of the drone fly out. That little cabin there, that's what came with this property. We've lived in there ever since we bought this place because our house isn't finished, so we're not in there yet. So we're still in there. That water system is a neat little containerized system. It's got a 40,000 liter concrete cistern underground that's got a well pump in it, basically submerged basically a foot off the bottom, and we fill that with water for the wind for many months, and then our cabin uses that water. So the cabin will have its own independent water, which is kind of cool, and it's also connected to a little culvert. And in that culvert, it goes down about 7 feet. There's water in it right now, so I could have pumped from that water today, but I didn't. I actually pumped from my well, which was a bit of a to do. And once I got it going, I realized, oh, maybe I should have pumped it from a culvert, and it would have been way easier. Though the quality of the water isn't as good because it's from snowmelt in the ground, whereas the quality of water I get from my well is from the earth. Like there's no tampering with that water, at least not to my knowledge. So thanks, Mike, for the super chat. Enjoyed today's chore video. Yeah, so there's more chores to that, really. Some days, I mean, I really do. I'm pretty sure I spend less than 10 or 12 hours doing chores on the homestead. And, at certain times of the year, there's going to be um, waves of work that have to be done, just like on a farm. There's a big push in the spring to get things going, clean things up. Big push in February, get the nursery going and all that. And then, yeah, big push in the garden in the spring, big push. Usually one big push in the middle of a season to just do a bunch of blanket chores, might be weeding or cultivating areas, replanting areas, and then basically the fall harvest. That's what the farm looks like, the garden of our homestead looks like. And then in between all kinds of other chores. Um, as far as the energy on our homestead, we don't really have to manage it at any time of year except the winter. And that's what you saw in that video is I scraped off the solar panels, which was completely pointless to do, but I actually wanted to do it just to show you in the video. And yeah, so my son usually helps me and it could take up to 10 minutes, but never really more than that. It would have to be pretty thick, which it was today for it to take that long. But what I have to do every couple days, um, if there's a lot of snow coming, is I have to get the snow away from the panels. That's one sort of regret that I had with one of my panel rigs is that it's not high enough off the ground and it's really annoying. See, if I get them too high off the ground, because I have to manage them with a long pole, if I get them too high off the ground, it's hard. I have to have a really long pole and it gets kind of dicey because if the pole bows in, it can hit the panels. So I don't want to have too long of a bow, but one of my panel rigs should be at least another 18 inches off the ground and it would be significantly less of a problem. And so I'm going to move that panel actually, maybe this summer. I might build a garage there in that spot, move that whole panel rig up the hill, and then just yeah, put the foundation of this garage on top of those concrete pavers that were already there. And so yeah, that's what that's what's going on. Minus 20 in the wind. Yeah, down minus 32 here. Oh, pretty nice though. It's been a very nice winter. The snow is fun now. It's a lot of fun. It's it's uh it's perfect for snowboarding. We went snowboarding and skiing. Well, we've been skiing. We ski almost every day actually at this time in the winter on the property. But we've gone snowboarding a couple times up at the ski hill, and that's a lot of fun. The snow is just perfect, and we already got 6 inches today. We'll probably get another at least four overnight. So real winter. Yeah. So the dog and pony show, folks. The dog and pony show continues, and I saw this whole thing with Vivek. I follow all the stuff on Twitter, and so I saw Vivek concede to Trump, which I don't know. I feel like that was sort of a foregone conclusion from the beginning, especially speaking so highly of him. Like, have you ever heard a politician um, in the run-up? Because there's sort of a code of ethics, a very low bar of code of ethics of how politicians run in the primary elections. It's similar in Canada. It's the same kind of dog eat dog politics. And then they all concede to one another so that that person can lead the party. But I had never in American politics ever seen a guy like Vivek basically just butter and just say nothing but good things about his main opposition his entire run. That was kind of interesting to me early on, because when have you ever seen that? But he's a really articulate guy, right? He's a joy to listen to. His rhetoric is bang on. Um, and he might have the best of intentions. Who knows? He might be a controlled opposition agent. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. It's interesting to even just observe the things and kind of break them down at the surface level of what's going on. Like, isn't that strange that a guy in the run up in the primaries, and usually the primaries are more dog eat dog because there's less risk because everybody forgets about what happened in the primaries by the time the main cycle comes in. You know, Canadians and Americans are like fish in a fishbowl. It's a 4 year cycle. And then everything up until that election is like a blackout party that after the election, people never remember the rhetoric. Of course, people do, right? And they document it, but it's widely forgotten, in my opinion, the rhetoric that happens in the run up to the main dog and pony show. But it was interesting. I thought that was, I don't know. When have you ever seen that? So I immediately had suspicions about Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, he's like a lot of these guys. Whether he's in on it somehow or he's just in it for himself and he's willing to play the game to get what he wants out of it. And I think that's probably what most politicians do. And the system sort of encourages that because the system is so based around money that that everything for the most part is a foregone conclusion in that whole apparatus, because money is everything. And the people who there's that special group of people who are in on printing the money, they pretty much get to call the shots of the entire establishment. That's why, fundamentally, in my opinion, what anything in mainstream politics is completely irrelevant. It is totally a foregone conclusion. Democracy is a complete sham. Whether the voting system works or not doesn't matter. Democracy itself is a sham in insofar as that the when you have control of the money, which this group of special people that shall not be named uh, are in. They have control of that. So rigging the election, let's assume that they don't. Okay, we know that they do, but let's just assume they don't for the sake of the argument. If you have an apparatus that can unlimitedly fund propaganda, mind control, psychological operations, the the voting itself doesn't even matter so much because you control the way people think. And people are so corralled and compartmentalized of in so many different ways they don't even know, that they just get directed to whatever the establishment wants them to get directed to. That's the dog and pony show. It's literally a parade of bullshit endlessly. And so um and really I'm optimistic about it becoming more and more of a dog and pony show, in that it's going to just reach its conclusion further on, which hopefully will cause some kind of reset in a good way, not a great reset, but perhaps um, a reset that, if you're aware of what's going to happen, which a lot of people who tune into my streams and people that I follow on Twitter and people that I am engaging with are getting it. If you can see the writing on the wall and know that there's no point in investing your energy in this thing, this dog and pony show, Trump, the whole dog and pony show with Trump, Vivek. And I want to talk about Teslas and the Cold War too, because that is pretty funny. But you can just now put that on the shelf and go, okay, that's happening. And I'm not going to move the needle in that regard because it's completely a dog and pony show. That's a foregone conclusion for the controlling elite who print all the money and are at the apparatus of the Anglo-American Zionist infrastructure that controls all the propaganda that we get. Okay, maybe I should focus on myself and the things that I need to live. Maybe I should think about, you know, food, where it comes from. Maybe I should think about where my water comes from. Maybe I should think about where my power comes from. Maybe I should think about, if there's no heat and I live in a cold climate, I come home and the heat's turned off. What am I going to do? I either have to leave because it'll be dangerous to stay in a place where there's no heat, or you have to find a way to heat your place. And so what I suggest that people do, instead of worrying about the dog and pony show, is get your things in order so that when the logical conclusion reaches its what did Gates call it, the final it's what Hitler said, let me take a sip of water and see if somebody spits it up for me in the chat, because final solution, that's what it was, final solution, that you'll be able to weather the storm. you know I think Trump is going to get elected, but he might not be. And what I'm going to say only matters so much of whether he does or not. But I think he will, because if you look at the propaganda that's really coming out, it's really trying to get you angry. And you see it in the truther stuff. There's so much propaganda in the truther space. I wonder if I should share. I shared a thread on Twitter not too long ago about the sort of the propaganda that I've been witnessing, and how the techniques are changing. And but anyways, there's so much BS everywhere that I was trying to find it. I'm so bad at multitasking, trying to find things on my Twitter. Anyways, but what they're doing is they're trying to get you angry, and they're trying to get you to react, and on all sides. They want to get the left to react and the right to react. I think, from my observation, the right is less triggerable, not as triggerable as the New World Order would like. The left is far more triggerable. Okay. Just think about the last switch they flipped with the Palestine, uh, the whole thing. Boom, just switched on these activists. Now everybody's fighting about this thing that has no effect on their life. Um, but it is, it's an important thing, right? I agree with the leftists in general in their position in Palestine. It's a complete injustice. I just don't agree with going and standing in the street and thinking that going and standing in the street and getting in fights with people and smashing shit is going to do anything for a conflict that's thousands of miles away from you. It's ridiculous, but I do agree uh, with the position. But anyways, they want to switch you on. They want to just turn it on. So I think Trump is going to be the perfect answer for that. Is that by letting him get elected, um, that it's just going to ignite the left. It's going to ignite them. Like, look how much more radical the rhetoric is getting, even in the mainstream politics of it. Look how much more radical it is. How MSNBC won't even air Trump's speech for winning that Iowa caucus or whatever it is. It's of no significance to me. But it's interesting the way that the patterns of behavior is more what I'm interested in. And look at how they won't even air that. That's a first, probably in mainstream media. Like the U.S. presidential elections are so important to so many Americans uh, that for them to not show that is a big fu in some ways. But that's all just smoke and mirrors down below. Whether Trump is part of the New World Order, or he's a white hat or something like that, who knows? Or I would say it's more likely. So people, truthers often fall into these dichotomies of either it's this or that. And with Trump, it's totally that, in my opinion. It's that there's two main opinions. Uh, no, on the right side, say there's two opinions of Trump on the right side. Forget the left because the left just hates Trump regardless. But on the right, there's two main opinions you see of Trump. The main one is that he's the best guy to do it. And then some of the truthers think that QAnon thing, Trump playing 4D chess, all this bullshit. So there's that. And then there's people that are like, oh, he's a Freemason. There's that picture of him at the Vatican. Somebody shared that on my Twitter today. It's pretty good. He's sitting there laughing it up with one of the main archbishops and Hillary Clinton right there, and they're just having a blast and having a roast. And so there's this dichotomy of opinions. Well, I think you could assume it without knowing, because it's hard to know. How do you really know? A lot of that stuff is what is legitimately what they call conspiracy theory. If you don't actually have a smoking gun, if you don't have a testimony, a video, a leak of some kind, some incriminating evidence, all you have is just speculation. But having said that, I think if you can look at your own life and understand that whenever something happened, a situation happened, and you thought it was a certain way on this side of it before it happened, and then it happened, and then your opinion changed because you had more information. The point I'm making is that we always can find more to the story, right? Like that's just a given. That's just logical to assume, right? Because you can experience that in your own life and you can see that with your own eyes. I would say it's probably more likely that Trump is not necessarily part of the New World Order, but and this claim, I'm not making any claim because who cares? But I just want to make a case that display that you can fall into a failure of logic is that most likely, if you've got these two dichotomies, the answer is somewhere in between, and it's far more complicated than you can probably imagine because you don't have all the information. So how could we really know? Because it could be that Trump is just playing a big game for himself. And I kind of have a theory about the general sense of what's going on in the world right now is that there's been basically a disruption in the upper level management of the Anglo-American Zionist establishment, in that a lot of the people, and upper level management would be people like Jeffrey Epstein, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, people like that, in and around there, Anthony Weiner, John Podesta, ex-presidents like Obama, stuff like that. That's all what I would call the upper level management. They're not on the hierarchy of anything, and they're all expendable for the most part. But they're the upper level management. They get allowed to come to the parties. They get shown the really sketchy stuff at the parties, which becomes an increasing offer as they climb the ladder of this apparatus, this structure. But basically, my theory is sort of that upper level management have been caught because the gravy train that used to be really exclusive came down as it naturally would. In order to pull off what the New World Order has pulled off, they have to have people involved. Now, those people are all compartmentalized big time. But in order to get shown more, you have to be blackmailed. Otherwise, you can't come in, right? Because it is so cryptic and so dark. That's what they need. But anyways, a lot of these people got caught. Like, and I think a lot of it started in and around the time that the Hillary Clinton emails came out. And it was shown, hot dogs. There's going to be $60,000 of hot dogs at this party. Um, there's Hillary Clinton's there's Obama says, yeah, there'll be $60,000 of hot dogs in the party and there'll be kids in the pool, right? Or Hillary Clinton in looking for or when she asks what penance she owes to Linda Rothschild or what's her name? Is it Lynn? What's her name? Ellen Rothschild's wife. Anyways, Hillary Clinton's saying, "What penance do I owe you, Miss Rothschild?" And then another one of her emails says, "I'm looking forward to sacrificing a chicken at the at the ball ceremony or whatever it was." Just go and look it up and how insane it was. So this was the beginning of a revealing of the veil, a pulling back of the veil, as all of these people started getting caught because they got sloppy and greedy, and Trump is probably implicated in this, and that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of Trump supporters. That it probably will come out. I wouldn't be surprised that he was more implicated in Epstein and that whole racket than a lot of conservatives would like to assume or think. But I mean, when you go back at him, I mean, he says some pretty crazy stuff, like that thing he talks about when his daughter was like in her 20s and she has a fantastic body. If she wasn't my daughter, I'd be dating her. Like, what kind of dad would say that? Like that's insane. I think about my daughter and there's nothing like that. That is you hear that and you're like, that's like nails on the chalkboard. And so there's all kinds of shit on Trump. But maybe it isn't as simple as we think it is. Maybe it's far more complicated, and that's okay. In a way, I find peace in it, in that maybe the New World Order doesn't have the whole thing in the bag. Maybe it's kind of fallen apart, and there's factions that are vying for control of the ring, if you will, you know. And I always just go back to so accept it and stand out of the way. So make sure you don't go down with the ship and start getting your shit together. It's not that hard. And I actually wanted to talk about some things that I think would be easy for a lot of people to do. Because so I'm posting at band.video now, Infowars at infowars.com. And I've only put one video up there and I actually made it specifically for the platform. And I've been 20 years listening to Alex Jones, and I had a connection to them. And my friend Dan Dix from Press for Truth kind of put a word in for me and connected me with Rob Dew, and I got a channel that I can post there. So I'm looking forward to posting more content there. But I made a video in there, and I think it actually triggered Alex Jones because the next day, I shit you not, on his broadcast, he was flipping out, going, and I can't just run out to the mountain. I'm not prepared. I can't run out to the mountain. If I'm going down, I'm going down to the ship. And my wife showed it to me, and I thought because she listens to Alex Jones too, and it was hilarious. And so, anyways, I wanted to and I mentioned some stuff in that video that I made for Band Dog Video, but I'll mention it again here because I think it's actually helpful for a lot of people. Because here's the thing: prepping Prepping is going to be very different, not only to whatever your context is, but also to where you are. So in like, and let me give you two examples. One being mine. So in my situation, I'm in a super low density populated area in a very rural part of southern British Columbia in about we're at 1,000 meters elevation, 3,000 feet. And it's a zone 4, technically, really. I thought it was a zone 5, but I think it's a zone 4 now. Because we got down to -32, which would technically put me at a zone 4. So, anyways, we're zone 4. So, there's parts of Wisconsin and North Dakota and many parts of the United States are the same zone 4 as me. In my context of homesteading, based on the geography that I'm in, cold climate, boreal climate, um, and winter is a thing, right? So at least for 3 months of the year, it's winter and there's tons of snow. And that creates all kinds of logistical challenges, as you've seen in my my recent video there today. I did a drone flyover. I didn't put it in this one. I'll do it in another one, showing my paths that I blow out with my snowblower. I love it. It's super cool. But anyways, the my context is more of a hunker down context. And the main reason is you can, in that there's very little threats around. Like there's just simply because the population density around me is 100th to what it is in, say, Eastern Texas or Oklahoma or anywhere over towards Pennsylvania, New York State, you name it, 100 times the population density, if not 1,000 times more densely populated than I am. So what you're going to do in a place like that than a place like this are probably different because you have to consider your main threat. So that being said, because a lot of people live in that area, call it the Eastern Quadrant, everything east of the Mississippi or east of Dallas, Texas, basically in the United States, is where most Americans live. And most North Americans too, because Canadians follow the same pattern just right across the border in Southern Ontario going towards Quebec. It's the exact same thing. And your strategy in a highly dense populated area might not be a hunker down strategy this much in the same way as mine because you have so many other potential outside threats that you might be better off moving or having the ability to be mobile. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a homestead and hunker down. That's important. But for some people, let's say people that just can't, maybe Alex Jones, because I saw him in his thing. He's going, I don't know, I don't have the money to move up to the mountain. I can't do this. And he's got a dozen excuses as to why. And they're actually quite legitimate. And so to Alex and many other people that might be in that same situation, let me recommend a number of things that could be helpful for you if and when the proverbial shit were to hit the fan quickly in the area that you live in, you had to move. Or be able to hunker down for a while, but always have the potential to move somewhere. So, food, water, energy, and shelter. You got to think about those things. And with shelter, what I mean too is heating your home and sort of the necessities you need for your home to function. Because most people will have some kind of shelter, unless you're homeless, and then God bless you. But most of us are going to have those things. So, even guys like Alex Jones and InfoWars sell emergency food supplies. That's a great place to start as far as food is concerned. To start with some emergency food supply. Start with getting 7 days, and you've got that in an area. Maybe it's in a bag. You could start, actually, the first thing you could start with is with a Bugout bag. Basically, and just Google that. And I don't need to go through all the items. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of prepper channels. If you put Bugout bag into YouTube, you could get some great content and get a better picture of what I'm saying. But basically, a bag that, well, I have two. I have what my wife and I call a bug in bag and a bug out bag. And I don't know if that's official terms. I know bug out bag is a bug in bag is an official term, but if it is, whatever, we use it. And our bug out bag is a bag that we carry in our vehicle or with us wherever we go somewhere. And the purpose of that bag is to get you home. So let's say I was driving somewhere and there's gridlock traffic and it's pandemonium and you have to abandon your vehicle and you have to march home. And that might take a couple days because an hour drive could be a couple days march, right? Or a day march, something like that. So you want a bag that has everything you need to get home. And so it might have one of those security blankets, those survival blankets, some fresh water, some medical supplies, a compass, a map, some dry clothes in there, like a couple pairs of dry socks for a couple and like your kids. Um, just a bunch of stuff, some food, some like really high fat protein food, snacks and rations, that kind of stuff so that that bag can get you home. And then you can have a bug in bag, or just is what I call it. I don't know if that's what people actually call it, but a bug in bag is uh two bags. What we have, if you have a family of four, you need to have at least two bags. And so the bug in bag is bags that if we had to evacuate the homestead, if we had to leave the homestead right away and had like a 7 day journey, we take those bags and go. And so those bags are almost the same. You have some stuff that be like you'd have some camping stuff in there. Um, that kind of stuff to last you 7 days, basically. That's a bag or a package of supplies that gets you to your plan B, right? And so those are two things, right? That you could have, that you should have. And if you don't have, I think you're nuts, especially if you live in an area that's highly populated. So you could start with that. Then you could go to some stored food, and then you might say, okay, let's buy right off the stuff off Infowars, Heaven's Harvest, or whatever all this stuff is. Get that stuff and start with 7 days of stored food in a corner of the closet or the corner of your pantry. Then start thinking about buying more big bulk things and then having like 30 days of food. And then think about longer, think about years. Then think about seeds, think about stuff like that. Everybody can do this stuff. And if you had to bug in, um, maybe you're able to bug in where you can actually just get in your vehicle and drive to where you need to go. But you also want to have as a redundancy the bags so that if you had to walk, you could get somewhere with the supplies that you needed. You know, so then you start thinking about food in terms of starting out as dependent. You go to the grocery store, there's food there, you just get it. Then you start thinking about being less dependent, having a bug out bag and a bug in bag and maybe 7 days or 30 days of food, less dependent. Then you start thinking about being secure. So now you're doing all that stuff, and maybe you got years worth of food, and now you're doing some gardening, right? Then you get into resilience where you're doing a lot more gardening. That's you're producing a lot more of your own food. Then you get to a state of sovereignty where you've got multiple types of systems. You're producing food as much as you can, as many months of the year as possible. And you kind of think about things that way. But the starting point is usually something quite simple. So even as far as water, it's not that much different. And just it's simpler logic. Is there's dependency to just you go home, you turn on the water, it works. You have no agency on whether it turns uh, on or off. It's just you hope that it turns on when it turned on, and you hope that the toilet flushes when that flushes. Um, and so have some stored water in your house. Start collecting rainwater on the side of your house, especially if you're in a climate where you get lots of rain and you don't get freezing as much. Collect some rainwater. You can collect rainwater even if it does get freezing. I'm doing it here right now. You can take steps to get to those places to a point where you've got multiple sources of water. I have four sources of water on my property now. I started with one. So, you know, it's all a stepping stone. It's got to start somewhere, with energy. It's as simple as the first thing you need to get towards working towards energy dependence is a small generator so that you can power some shit if you need to. And you could, okay, power's out, run the generator, leave it outside, run an extension cord into the house, plug a power bar into it. Okay, we can run a toaster oven or we can run a blender and, we can recharge some flashlights and, something like that, right? To a point of, and that would be less dependence, to a point of security where now maybe you've got a grid tied system, maybe you've got some solar or something, you've got some element of a secondary source of power besides one. It's you want to have multiple sources of power, and then to a point of say security where now you've got at least a grid tied system or a part of an off-grid system to a point of sovereignty where you've got multiple forms of energy that you can harvest on your property. And I only have two right now, so I don't. I think for me to qualify as sovereign, I think I would like to have one more consistent, fairly consistent form of power, and I'm not sure what that is. I've got my diesel generator, which is great. I'm looking at uh, hydrogen through electrolysis as stored energy, which there's some pretty compelling stuff coming out about that in the off-grid space. Another one is compressed air, where you might not have a secondary source, but you can have a secondary storage because battery storage is somewhat limiting in that batteries can default. They can go wrong. And so I actually had a thing happen. I mentioned in my video today, but I had a thing happen where one of my inverters went and it made my whole system go down and no power. But fortunately, my generator functions in two ways on my Homestead, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So one way the generator functions, the primary way the generator functions, is it's connected to the entire system. So there's solar coming in as DC through charge controllers going to the battery, and then there's inverters from the batteries which take the DC out of the batteries and convert them to usable power that we use right now for everything. And then the generator is tied into the DC side of the batteries so that when the generator is needed, when the batteries, in my case, when they get to 20%, and there's three other triggers that would trigger the generator. I don't need to go through all of them because it'll be a side rail. But anyways, it gets turned on when it's needed and it just runs until the batteries get up to about 50% and then it'll turn off. That's how my generator functions 90% of the time. But in the case of a system fault, because there is some software and electronics that run this system. So in the case of a fault, which happened, boom, no power. Simply go to, I have a main box that's a bridge between the DC and AC side of my generator. So my generator can produce DC and AC to my system by flipping one switch, and I can't have both these switches. I can either have AC coming from the generator, or it's DC and it's only going into the whole system, or it just comes straight to available power on AC. So without any electronics, I can just pull a breaker, fire at my generator, and it has a heater on it, so it stays warm. That's why it lights up at minus 32 Celsius, which it did. Lights up right away. Boom. It lags for 30 seconds, and then it goes. Unlike my skid steer, but the generator fired up and then boom, immediate AC power. So straight AC from the generator, no fucking around in terms of the other parts of the system. So that is an amazing benefit, and that's two reasons why you every system needs a generator. You have to have a generator. It doesn't really matter where you live. I mean, you could in the tropics get away with not having them because you're not going to die, or you're not going to have things malfunction on your homestead without electricity. Whereas in a cold climate, depending on how your homestead is set up, um, if you lose power, a source of heat. An easy one is just having oh, are we lagging out here? Um, Easy one is just a simple propane heater. You can also get electrical stuff like that, but you might not have electricity. And so you might want to have both. Might have a small space heater that's just like less 500 watts or less. That if you were running a generator, that maybe you got a 3 kilowatt generator or something like that, you could put in that little space heater off a power bar, charge your phones, charge flashlights, whatever, keep your place warm enough. That would work. I would also have a small space heater, a propane space heater. That's easy. And then, of course, if you have a wood stove in your house, then even better. But something like that alone. And then the other thing is a place to poo and pee, especially if you're going to hunker down. So imagine living in a condominium or an apartment, and all of a sudden the toilet doesn't flush. So whoever was unfortunate enough to take that first shit in the toilet and not and it doesn't flush has to deal with it somehow, right? So that's going to suck. That's a rude awakening. Wow, the toilet doesn't flush. There's no water, right? So what do you do? A simple thing you can do with call it 4 5 gallon buckets, because this is what I do right now. I literally poop and pee in buckets. We have a simple composting toilet system with sawdust that just comes from a local mill, and I can get it for almost free uh, whenever I want it. And it's accessible, and it's great. And you basically poop in the bucket and cover it with sawdust. You poo and pee in the bucket and cover it with sawdust. Of course, if you're hunkered down somewhere, if you're a guy and you can pee outside, you definitely want to just do that. Otherwise, the bucket fills up really quick. Let the girls pee and everybody poos in the bucket. But if you had 4 of those, let's say you had maybe a bucket or 2 of sawdust, and then you had 2 buckets to poo and pee in. That could literally be enough. I mean, our family of 4 would fill one of those buckets almost a day. So, something so that you can at least go and dump it somewhere, but that's a thing you could do if you were stuck in your home and you wanted to hunker down and not go anywhere and you had to shit somewhere, right? Instead of just like, it might be too cold outside. You don't want to go outside. You got a little space heater keeping your condo or your house or whatever warm, and it's too uncomfortable to go outside. You can go pee outside, sure. But yeah, so that, I don't know, that's what I would say. There's simple things you can do. So many people look at stuff that I'm doing and just assume that I just showed up. Like, oh, he just showed up and had all this stuff. Like, I've been working on this shit for 15 years. And I started very humbly, as people know. Uh, but I see people being like, oh, and even Alex Jones is like, oh, I can't just run away and do that. It's like, dude, of course you can't. I've been working on this for my entire career, like to get to where I am now, to be doing what I'm doing now. Literally has been my entire career. It's not like I've been working on this homestead my entire career, but my entire accumulation of skills and resources came with the intention of doing this from the beginning when I was urban farming on my bike. The intention was to do this. And my entire plan, this has been my kind of master plan the whole time, that I knew I wanted to work towards this, have a family, and be set up in this way. And so I've taken a long time to do, but I've also positioned myself in a place where it's more about hunkering down, whereas in other places it might not be. And I think this is why most zombie apocalypse movies take place in that southeast region of the United States, because that's where people will be crawling. Like, that's where there'll be, people moving around. So you're gonna have to really, the good thing is down there, because you have a lot of population, you can also have a lot of connections, which is good, that people can band together. And in those kind of situations, that's most likely what you would have to do. There'd be probably local protection rackets that you're going to have to participate in. And otherwise, it's just too risky. And so there'll be geographical areas that are patrolled by gangs, essentially, to protect areas. Look at the third world now. That's how it is. Go to you want to know what the world looks like, especially in a warm climate when the shit hits the fan. Go look at Haiti right now. And for a long time, Haiti has been a shithole that is violent. There's gangs everywhere. It's just rampant crime. It's total chaos. It's hard to survive. Haiti's like that. There's a guy on YouTube. I really enjoy his stuff. He's called Indigo Traveler, and he's probably the best travel vlogger because he's hardcore. And he goes to the most dangerous countries, like literally all the most dangerous countries this guy goes to. And he has crazy shit that goes on. And he did, I think, a 2 or 3 part series in Haiti. It is unreal. You want to know what shit hitting the fan looks like in a warm climate, especially with the amount of migrants that are coming up across the southern border. You want to know what it looks like? Go and watch that guy's videos. Go and see how it is now. And that'll give you a little bit of a sense of how savage things can get quickly when people are desperate. And so, anyways, the context is different though. It's the cold climate. And so, but that's why I've chosen because some Americans are really stoked in a way to, more Americans are way more into guns, right? And I get it. Like I'm a hardcore First Amender, and that is the First Amendment, right? The guns, protection, arms, or Second Amendment. Um, and but it's just not as much of a thing up here in Canada. It is in the sense that people can have guns up here. People have all kinds of guns. I know of guys that have all kinds of, they have the, what are they called? Restricted licenses, where they have all kinds of handguns and whatnot. People can get all kinds of guns up in Canada. Canada is actually quite armed in general, especially in the rural areas. But Canada's just less violent because there's less people. But in the populated areas of Canada, it's quite violent. Look at Toronto and Vancouver right now; they're quite violent, and so um, it's the same really as the U.S. It's just you're less likely to encounter it. So for me, my strategy is more just like, I'm not a super gun guy. I'm not, shooting at the range every weekend and all this kind of stuff. So my strategy is more, well, let's just get out of the way and live in a super low population area. That presents challenges too, for sure. But that's just been a strategy. So it's different than everybody's. And everybody's own context is going to dictate really what you're doing. But yeah, that's kind of mine. So, anyways, that's a bit of a piece on that. I wanted to just kind of share that a bit tonight, and then I'll take a look at there's some super chats here. Point seven Farmstead says, what is the easiest grain to grow for personal consumption in a zone 4B, 5A? Something that's easy to produce by hand. Quinoa. But it's actually very easy to produce by hand. And amaranth is a good one for those climates. The key is you got to have a dry August or September. If you get precipitation in that time, it's a disaster. And so that works for my climate, zone 4 boreal. That would work for any boreal climate. Zone 3 probably work for zone 3 too, as well. Not 2, but zone 3 as well. And then getting up to 6. Um, sometimes, well, no, you can have a boreal climate that's zone 6. Like Kelowna is like that actually, and Kelowna was perfect for growing quinoa. But then anything beyond that, zone 7, you start to get more precipitation in the fall, making it more difficult to do. Generally speaking, like if I think about boreal climates in Canada, anything above a zone 6, getting into zone 7 is coastal. And then you start getting into fall rains and then forget about it. It doesn't work. You got to have a hot, dry summer. And so, yeah, that's boreal. Boreal climates are hot, dry summer and then snowy, cold, dry winters. And then all your precipitation cycles are on the shoulders on the spring and the fall. But summer's hot and dry and very, very little rain. So yeah, if you've got that, quinoa and amaranth are amazing, and you can just cut it. You just desiccate it. Best way to grow that crop, in my opinion, is on drip. You can do it right in 30-inch beds. On a 30-inch bed, you could do with quinoa, you could do 2 rows down the center, maybe a foot to 14 inches apart. And then like corn, I do corn the same way. And then every 6 inches, boom, 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 boom. Every 6 inches of plant, dense. You can space it out a bit more, and then if you have better germination, you could space it out better and go for bigger plants. But I like starting things dense because even then you get really thick stuff, and this works if it's dry. If it's not dry, it's a nightmare. So if it's less dry, then you do it at a wider spacing. But quinoa makes it almost grows like cannabis, a big plant with colas, and you just cut those colas off. You let it you irrigate it on drip, and then by August, like when it's full and it's all colorful and all that, and it's starting to dry, cut the irrigation. Don't water it and just let it desiccate. And that's where you want to plant it early enough so that you can have this happen in late August or early September, and then kill the irrigation and just dry it, get it as bone dry as possible. Then you just go and cut the colas off, basically, collect them in these. I've got them right here. Check this out. These are some of my beans that I still haven't dried yet, but it's the same idea. This is all dry, desiccated bean crop. Basically, you do the same thing with your quinoa and you throw it in those big paper leaf bags and let it dry. And you can hang it to dry, but you can even just dry it in there. If you harvest it dry, you don't need to hang it. It's actually better than not. Because then with quinoa, it'll be so easy in that you can just let that dry if it's in a dry place, and then just smash it down and then just pull off all the chaff. And yeah, pretty easy to do. So that's what I would say to that. What am I drinking there? That's my water. We have these glass bottles that I got. There's a kombucha company in Kelowna that had them, and I just kept them instead of refunding them because I really think they're cool. They're 32 fluid ounces. I like drinking out of glass. It's my favorite, uh, next to say stainless steel, but or copper. We drink in copper cups in the kitchen. So yeah, that's what I would say to that question. Yeah, rice. Somebody said spelt, amaranth, barley. Yeah, I'd like to try more of those. Rye, I haven't had a ton of success with, but um, barley and millet. Yes, I'd like to try those as well. I'm just reading your guys' comments. Americans have to order our full auto triggers from Canada. No, I have no idea. I have no idea, brother. So, as it goes back to what I started with the dog and pony show, again, I just go back to take care of your shit because these politicians are not going to take care of you. They are, actually, this is one thing I could kind of elaborate on the macro of what I think is going on. So I was saying how the middle level, upper level management's been caught, right? Leaked emails, Podesta, Pizzagate, all this shit. It's all coming out. Because there are like in the whole apparatus of the state where you've got like at the very top the say three people that really know what the hell's going on, and then got the cult, and then so the cult is serving the master of the realm, right? Satan, as they say, Lucifer. The cult is, and the cult are a very small population, probably. If I had to guess, people above the Knights of Malta and stuff like that, or elite positions in the Vatican and the Knights of Malta and central banking and whatnot. Very, very small elite group of people in the cult that know it's a cult. And then everybody else doesn't know it's a cult. And most people, if they're involved, they're doing it for pop culture reasons, like that little Nas X little shit who makes those satanic videos for children. Disgusting. But I'm just partying. He's just, doing horrible things all the time in his hedonist lifestyle. Um, those are, that's just like fun for the cult. They're not really in the cult. They're just like being played along. So you got people in the cult. Then you got underneath that probably the plutocracy, right? The high financial institutions, Bank of International Settlements, you know, Federal Reserve, stuff like that. Deep state people in plutocracy. Then the plutocrats control the technocrats. The technocrats control the politicians. The politicians control the bureaucrats, and the bureaucrats, so on and so forth, to your average, just police officer who works on the street of Chicago. Most of the people up until the cult or up until the plutocrat probably could be totally just compartmentalized and they just think they're doing what's best. And they just think this is all good. I'm just taking care of myself, looking after my family. But those people, but the plutocrats and the sort of people in the upper echelons of the technocrat space, the people that are revolving in and out of politics, like the John Podestas, like they're not elected, but they're just in there, right? They're just criminals. These guys have all got caught, and in that they know. This is my opinion here that they know this whole dog and pony show is coming down. They know it's all coming down, and so they're just filling their boots. They're basically just going and getting it's a smash and grab. Just get as much as I can on the way out. I think it's possible that Trump could even be doing that. He's just taking care of himself and his family. And he's going, yeah, I'm going to ride this political train. It's working. I can be president again. And he probably knows he can't even do that much because look at how much he did when he got elected. It was nonstop against him the whole way. So what makes you think with the last 4 years of Democrats and the opportunity they've had to put more infrastructure in to just control all of it, what makes you think that now Trump coming back in is going to come in a stronger position? He's coming in a way weaker position. So whether he's in on it or not, it doesn't really matter. Maybe he's just filling his boots and he's riding this train. Hey, I'll be the president again, and I'm going to make sure that my shit's ready. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, making this massive bunker in Hawaii where he's got submarines that exit this thing. It's like out of a superhero movie. James Edwards says, "Boots or hearts." That is a tragically hip song, right? Um, anyways, Jim says he's a Mason. Who? Trump? I don't think so. Well, no, no, no. Sorry. Yeah, he probably is. I haven't seen his oh no, I've seen the symbols that he does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's for sure a Mason. I'm not a Mason though, if that's what you're implying. I've seen people in the chats saying, "Oh, Curtis did these symbols once, therefore he's a Mason." I'm not a Mason, for the record. I have never had an interest in being part of that dog and pony show. But yeah, these guys just fill in their boots. And that's why the collapse might start accelerating because all the lower level bureaucrats start getting sloppy. You know where you can actually see a present day example of this in Canada is in Montreal. I lived in Montreal for 6, 7 years, and I witnessed what you go to Montreal. As soon as you cross the border into Quebec from Ontario, you see how socialist policies don't work immediately. As soon as you go into Quebec, it's potholes everywhere. So the driving conditions aren't really any different than they are just across the border in Ontario, Kingston, Ottawa, whatever. They're no different. It's the same ground. It's the same uh, conditions, the same climate. Yet you go to Quebec and there's potholes everywhere. Why? It's because in Quebec, and this has been widely known because Montreal has been the politics of Montreal is super corrupt. The Italian mafia have run the show there for a long time. And Mayor Tremblay, I forget what was his first name, but he was the mayor when I was in Montreal, Tremblay. For the entire time I was there, he was the mayor. And he got implicated and busted on being directly involved with the Italian mafia. And the Italian mafia were legit. I mean, I witnessed a couple, one direct and then another one where I was close to that I heard firsthand from a friend. Uh, Two things that were crazy when I lived in Montreal. One was I saw a car bomb go off in St. Henry right when I got out of the metro. I saw a car bomb go off. It was holy shit. Did that just happen? And I was fortunately well out of the way that it was nowhere near me. But I also had a friend who witnessed, I think it was on Saint Denis, it was on some major street in Montreal. This was years ago, where a guy got stabbed to death by four Italian gangsters that pulled up to him on the street. They jumped out of the car. Four guys stabbed the dude to death, got in the car, took off, never were seen again, never got caught. At least they never got caught when I was following the story. Maybe they have since then. I don't know. But that's the kind of shit that goes on in Montreal. And so Montreal, other than that, it's not really that dangerous of a city. Like it's I had a couple of sketchy experiences actually once in what's it called? Hochelaga in Montreal. I had some crazy homeless guy chase me with a knife and I ran like crazy. Some psycho drug guys drugged out. Other than that, I never had anything sketchy happen to me in Montreal, though I kind of gave three extreme examples, but by and large, it's a very safe city, and all the crime is just super in the mafia, and then maybe just low level drug dealers and stuff like that. But average people don't witness crime. They probably do now because everything's worse now. But going back to the corruption in Montreal, there's a story. Any Quebecers in the audience or Canadians know about this? Is during the expo I forget what year it was, late 70s or something, the expo in Montreal, where they made the big stupid monument where they had the event downtown there. It was a racket where these construction workers were all Teamsters and they all got rich because they just drove their trucks. They got paid per load and there was not a lot of oversight on the whole job. And these truckers just scammed the system by driving their truck in and out and not dumping their loads. And they would get an extra 4 or 5 loads a day. And all these truckers got rich and bought homes in Point Claire and some of the other upper class areas of Montreal. And anyways, Montreal has always been known as a really corrupt city. And I witnessed it in so many different ways when I worked there because I always have a day job doing something with screen print. Mostly I do screen printing actually. But I used to ride my bike. I used to live in Mile End and I used to work in St. Henry. I worked at the screen printing shop in St. Henry, which is on kind of opposite ends of the downtown side of Montreal. And for most of the year, I'd ride my bike down to St. Henry, but in the winter, I would take the metro. And what was I going to say about how? Oh yeah, I would always pass on Park Avenue. You take Park Avenue down Montreal. You pass you go southwest technically. You pass Mount Royal Park, which is the big monumental park center of the island of Montreal. And there was this statue under construction there for, I'm not kidding you, years when I lived in Montreal. And I would ride past that construction site in the morning and on my way home. And there would be at least 2 shifts of guys that there would always be guys working there when I was going to work and coming back. And every time I crossed that construction site on the way to work and back, guys were literally standing around hacky sacking, smoking cigarettes. There's a culture of effing the dog, as we say in Western Canada, fucking the dog, um, which is legit. And they are very aggressive about maintaining that. And if you join a union um, in Montreal, you will be told if you work too hard too quickly, you'll be told really quickly to step down and chill out and slow down, and you'll be intimidated. And I witnessed even actually myself at one place that I worked at first that was unionized, but I came in as a part-time guy and I didn't have to join the union, but I watched a lot of the politics of this union and it was sketchy to say the least. And so anyways, you can see how the point I'm trying to make with all this and how it ties back to this whole thing of the upper level management getting caught is that you can see how when you start to see the corruption at the lower levels, things start to fall apart. Like, um, for example, I would say in British Columbia, all the corruption in politics is at the fairly upper levels. It probably starts at ministers and above. You don't witness a lot of corruption on the bureaucrat and just low level government worker, whereas in Montreal you do, but in BC you don't. But then you go to a country like Mexico, where the corruption is just widely distributed. And this is why a lot of anarchist friends of mine like to live in Mexico or places like Nicaragua and Ecuador, is that when you know the corruption is everywhere, well, then everything is just 200 to 1,000 pesos away from a conclusion, right? So you get pulled over, you can bribe your way out of it. You can't do that in British Columbia. The corruption is higher up, and so there's a benefit. There's a benefit to that, and there's pros and cons basically on either side of that. But you can see how when the corruption starts to come into the lower ranks, things start to get more unorganized. That's why in places like Mexico, it just takes a long time for like things just don't get done. Everything's manana. You watch your average Mexican construction site, guys literally push dirt from one side of the floor to the other side of the floor and call it a day of work. And they make 200 pesos for that day of work, which is fuck all, which is like $20 or less. But that's the quality of work you get. Whereas when you and this is also kind of where we're getting to a discussion of a high trust culture and a low trust culture. And so generally speaking, the poorer the country and the hotter the climate, the lower the trust. The richer the country and the colder the climate, the higher the trust. Now, why is that? If you think about it, Malcolm Gladwell, is it Gladwell or is it the book Guns, Germs, and Steel. Is it no. Who originally hypothesized this? Is anyways, it doesn't matter. Is that high trust societies came out of Western and Northern European societies. Protestant work ethic based around the season. And so one of the most high trust societies in the world is Sweden. Less so now, since many years of migrants just being dumped in there. But prior to that, super, super high trust society. When I was in Sweden, which was, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, in Stockholm, we noticed that women leave their babies in apartment buildings. Women will leave their babies in the stroller in the lobby down the hall from their apartment to just they take them for a walk and then they want to pass out, and so they let the kids sleep in the lobby so they can go in the apartment and do stuff that's not and not wake them up. Literally, we witnessed this. We were shocked. We walked into this apartment we had where there's an Airbnb, and there was 3 strollers of babies in the lobby and no parents to be found. We were like, oh my god. And a woman, somebody came in, and everybody speaks English in Sweden, so it was easy to, excuse me, do you know whose babies these are? She's like, oh, that's just, everybody does that. We just do that here. And so that's a high trust society. I would never do that, but that's a high trust society. Mexico, would you ever see that? Not in your life. Not in your life. Um, in Mexico, everything is a smash and grab, especially if you're a gringo. You want to buy something, it's a smash and grab. You want to buy some hat, and you know it's only worth 200 pesos at the most, and the guy starts at 1,000, and you're like, dude, come on. And then you have to play this game where you walk away, and then he goes, okay, 5, and you no 2, and then so you have to do that every time. It's annoying. That's low trust society. People are stealing from each other all the time. People don't trust each other. There's, of course, pockets of communities in Mexico where people trust each other. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blanket saying that all of Mexico's that way. That's not the case at all. It's just that by and large, it's more so than it is in cold climate, Northern and Western European societies. And so this is another thing that's going to be crazy about the US is that all if they're all going to go where it's warm because and that's why I like cold climate is that I just don't have to deal with that. I just don't want to see that shit. Some people are more prepared for that than I am. We're all prepared. Many of us could be prepared in different ways. But that's one thing where I would just rather stay out of the shit, and just rather not be anywhere near it. Um, See me rolling. Thanks for the super chat. It says, have you heard of Braden Lee O'Connell? This guy has some interesting takes. No, I haven't. I'll copy it though, and then I'll search him. Is he on Twitter? Nope. I won't watch it now, but thanks for the recommendation. No, I haven't heard of him. Yeah, is my stream freezing up again? Yeah, it's been just snowing so crazy. I'm surprised that it's lasted this long, to be honest. Um, but yeah, this is says 2 vids from Kristen Dirksen. Yeah, she makes cool videos with about homesteads and stuff like that. Nero says, "Don't put your faith in Trump. Don't put your faith in anybody but God and yourself and your family and the people that you trust. Don't put your faith." I just can't believe that people just go along with the politics. Like I just can't believe it. It's just how many people wrap their lives in all this bullshit and put so much of their life force into it. And really that is the trap. The trap is that The New World Order, the Anglo-American Zionist establishment want you spending your God-given life force on the pursuit of nothing. And however they got to propagandize you to for you to do that doesn't matter. So whether they got to propagandize you to put all your faith and effort and life force energy into the hope of an outcome of an election is one thing they can get you on. Another thing they can get you on is they can get you thinking that you can create your and just imagine a new gender and then people need to obey your pronouns and then you go down to the pride parade and you get to like walk around naked and and be a degenerate and put on the S&M gear and do all this madness and celebrate something that is nothing. To celebrate your gender is to celebrate nothing because you didn't have to do anything to achieve it. So it's one thing to celebrate a marriage, you know, having children, building something great. Those are one thing. That's one thing to celebrate. But we shouldn't be prideful, right? We shouldn't be proud. We should try to be humble. And sure, we all are guilty of being proud of something here and there. And it's not that bad of a thing. But to be proud of something that is nothing is an exercise in futility. So the New World Order is playing the lefties by getting them to just dwell on identity politics and retarded stuff that has no doesn't move the needle in your life whatsoever. It doesn't do anything for you. It provides nothing, no value. Or they want you just to get involved in politics and just throw all your hopes and dreams and motivation and helping the campaign and you're doing knocking on doors and you're handing out flyers and you're involved in this candidate. Everybody's like Robert F. Kennedy. He's the guy. Whatever it is. Um, it's nothing. It's a complete take your life force back and bring it back to center and allocate it in something that does something for you. Because this whole dog and pony show, all of it, the identity politics on the left, the hope for a Trump win on the right, or whatever it is, if you're not spending time preparing for what we can see as a pretty clear, obvious outcome, in my opinion, whether Trump gets elected or not, things are going to keep lightening up. And I would say that Trump will only accelerate. If I can gauge it on what happened when Trump was last in office, it seemed to accelerate the leftism, right? It accelerated the madness, orange man bad, the absolute haywire nature of leftists. Now, the only difference between Trump in 2016 and Trump in 2024 is that now there's probably a few more million migrants that have been flooded into the country and propagandized with all kinds of information and given money to and that's what'll be the thing that really tips it off. Could you imagine if Trump went to go and round up all the migrants? Totally necessary, totally what I would do if politics was real, if and a legitimate thing was going to change something, that would have to be done, right? Um, and they'll do that, but it'll set them off like crazy. Trump's Hitler, concentration camps. I mean, you already heard all the rhetoric before. It's all the same shit. They're just going to spin it again. But it's just the conditions now for the average person are so much more worse and risky. And yeah, the potential to pop off is greater than ever. It's insane. So yeah, man, that's that's what I'm saying. Man of Leisure says, I used to think Trump would be better because he's in the good wrestler for America that things would slow, but in actuality, things get worse and social unrest is more draconian laws. But it's kind of ironic. I mean, at least I don't know. What do you guys think of this? I mean, this just seems to be what I'm witnessing is that during the left, during a left establishment politician like a Biden, there seems to be more victories on the right for like things being exposed. But then when it's on the right, it's just the left going crazy and crazy and crazy. So it's it doesn't really matter. I mean, when you look at the warps, like I think you have to, if you're going to give the devil his due, you have to recognize with Trump warp speed. If you can't recognize that, then you're living in cognitive dissonance, I believe. And I don't hate on people for having different opinions than me because Alex Jones doesn't share my opinion on this, but I still like him and I still listen to what he has to say and think he's right. I think he's right on most things. Um, I just think he's wrong on Trump, and I think it's a waste of time for anybody who can see what's going on to have any faith that that's going to do anything for you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having faith in it per se, but if you're spending your God-given life force on that outcome, then I'd say your God-given life force could be better allocated in other places that serve you than, you know, getting involved in that whole bullshit scam. Um, yeah. I think what I'm going to do, folks, is I think I'm going to end the stream early so I can go in and do some of the chores that I should have done after dinner. And maybe I'll look at the Q&A a little bit more. I'm going to share the space. So if you guys, and I'll just kind of keep spamming the chat with it as I riff for the last little bit. If you guys want to do the call-in show with me, we're going to start at 8 o'clock. That way, if I shut this down relatively early, I can go and just do a few more chores, load the wood stoves, take a whiz, decide what musical track I want to open the next show with. I think it's going to be Tortoise. I've been really enjoying playing a lot of music. But if you want to join the space and call in, that's what the space is all about. I'll probably riff for a little while, kind of see how it goes, see who shows up, and then yeah, just riff with you guys. That's what happens on spaces. It's pretty sweet. If you're not on there, um, and you're on YouTube, it's seriously it's seriously way better as far as interacting. It's more personal. People, there's more skin in the game. You know, YouTube comment sections, and I do enjoy these streams. Your guys's chat, I enjoy it. I appreciate the super chats. Um, but it's just text on a screen. On Twitter Spaces, you can just call me, right? And I can let you in, and we can riff. And there's been some great gravy that have come out of these spaces. And I've done a number of them now, and I really enjoy them. And that's why I want to do separate, because doing the live stream, I've found with the spaces, I thought it would be kind of a win-win, is it was just stacking it all. But it's just hard for me to manage. And I find it's cool to do video and do video. And here I'm doing video, I'm talking to the camera, we're doing video, and then it's cool to do audio. And then I can load the stove while we're doing the space and something like it's a different experience. You can multitask a bit more. And it's way more personable because you can call in and we can just shoot the shit. Uh, hey, thanks, Darren. Thanks for the reminder. And yes, because I actually put it, thank you for the reminder, Darren. You probably saved the space right there. Because I put that Wi-Fi timer back on because I'm going more into off. Like we'd had, a full day of snow. Didn't get. I think I got. What did I get today for kilowatt hours of solar? It was ridiculous. It was. Let's see what it is. At 3 o'clock it was. At 4 o'clock it was one. Get out of here. Is that how much I got? 0.3 kilowatts. That's what I pulled in solar today. 0.3. That's the lowest solar I've ever pulled in a day. That's crazy. So I'm a lot more conservative of my electricity when we go into that mode. But we might have some sunshine tomorrow, so it might be all good. But yes, I will go and turn my Wi-Fi router on, Darren. I always appreciate your super chats, brother. Yeah, folks. So that's what we're gonna do. Quick plug for if you want to support my work, support me. Of course, super chatting is great. But freedomfarmers.com is the platform that I publish most of my work, online courses, our Homestead Accelerator program. which is just crushing. We're helping people get on the land. It's amazing. You can sign up for just like a month on Freedom Farmers if you want to. And actually, I'll give you guys if you guys want, I'll give you a what is it this? It's New Year 2024. That's a discount code for 50% off a month. If you want to just try Freedom Farmers for a month, you get access to the entire platform. So all the courses, the Homestead Accelerator, the coaching calls, everything for a monthly fee. Use that code New Year 2024. Let me double check that that's what it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Um, and that'll give you 50% off the month. So if you want to try it for, I think it would be $20 or something like that, use that code New Year 2024. I'm just going to double check that that is. Yep, that's it. New Year 2024. That code will give you 50% off if you want to check it out. Because, if you want to get on the land, our Homestead Accelerator program gives you the gravy of the best homestead properties in the United States, hands down. And we do have some in Canada, and we're trying to find a way to do more. We publish 10 to 15 properties a week, and then the map stays up. And if all those listings are live, they're all in there. So there's hundreds of properties you can view right now in our map. So if you want to just try it, that code will give you 50% off, and you can cancel anytime. So freedomfarmers.com, check that out. And yeah, we'll talk more about whatever over in the space. And yeah, looking forward to having you guys in there. Let me just spam the chat here a bit more with it. And then that's where we're going to go after I kill this. And you know what I'll do actually? I will put it in. Can I put it in this video? Yeah, here we go. Go to the space. Boom. I put it in the top of the description of the video for at least tonight. I'll take it down tomorrow. But yeah, folks, I hope to see you guys over there. Call in. We'll do that for a little while as well. All right, folks. Head over to X, Twitter, Spaces. Link is in the chat there. Spend a bunch of time. Also use that code if you want to try Freedom Farmers for a month. Okay, folks.